It doesn't charge. It doesn't roar. It doesn't bare its teeth. It just walks toward you, slowly. And by the time you understand what you're looking at, it's already too late. Most people think they know Africa's most dangerous animal. They picture fangs, speed, something that looks like a weapon. They picture the lion stretched across golden grass, the crocodile submerged in murky water, the black mamba coiled in the shadow of a rock. And they'd be wrong. Not a little wrong, completely wrong. The animal responsible for more human deaths in Africa than almost anything else weighs 6 tons, eats grass, and has been painted on children's bedroom walls for generations. Stand in the Amboseli Basin in southern Kenya, just before sunrise. The light is still thin, barely enough to see. The dust hasn't risen yet, and in that silence, before the birds even start, you feel something, a vibration. Not sound exactly, something lower than sound, a pressure in your chest, in the ground beneath your feet. Then they appear, out of the gray morning, moving like slow weather. A herd of African elephants crosses the open plain. There's no dramatic entrance, no music cue. They simply arrive as if they've always been there, and you just couldn't see them yet. The largest one leads, a female, almost 4 meters tall at the shoulder. She moves with a kind of quiet authority that doesn't need to announce itself. Her ears drift forward slightly. Her eyes are small for an animal this size, tucked beneath a forehead that seems to absorb the sky. She's looking at you. And here's where most people make their first mistake. They think, in that moment, that they understand what they're seeing. They've seen elephants in zoos, in documentaries, on Instagram. They think they know this animal. They don't. At first, it looks like size is the only thing that makes it impressive. But that's not what makes it dangerous. A full-grown elephant can weigh over 7,000 kilograms. Its tusks can grow longer than a human arm. It lives in structured groups, led by a matriarch who remembers roots, water sources, and threats across decades. But the real danger isn't its size. It's how it thinks and how it remembers. They communicate in ways we still don't fully understand. Not just sounds, but signals that travel through the ground. Frequencies too low for human ears. Messages that move across kilometers. They grieve. They return to bones. They stand still for hours, sometimes days. But none of that is what makes them dangerous. This is the part where most nature films stop. Because this is beautiful. This is the version of the elephant that ends up on charity posters. But this is not the full story. Every year, human-elephant interactions lead to over 1,000 fatalities. Not lions. Not crocodiles. This. And most people don't even realize it. Lions kill a few hundred people a year. Hippos, often called the most dangerous, kill around 500. But this animal kills more than both. And still, no one talks about it. But this is where everything changes. Because the real danger doesn't come from what the elephant is. It comes from when something inside it shifts. Elephants are not aggressive by nature. They are not predators. They don't hunt. They don't see humans as food. But they do see humans as threats. As competitors. As a species that has, over the past century, taken more and more of the land they need to survive. An elephant needs up to 300 liters of water per day. It eats between 150 and 300 kilograms of vegetation. It needs enormous ranges to sustain itself. And those ranges are shrinking. Every decade, the patchwork of protected land gets a little smaller. The human settlements press a little closer. The corridors between parks get narrower. When an elephant walks out of a protected area at night to feed on crops, it's not being malicious. It's being an elephant. It's doing what elephants have done for millions of years. It just happens to be doing it in a farmer's field now. The farmer whose entire year's harvest is destroyed in a single night isn't a villain either. He's trying to feed his family. He might grab a torch. He might make noise to drive the animal away. He might get too close. And that's when it happens. Now here's what changes everything. The piece of this story that rewrites the picture you had in your mind. And then there's something most people have never heard of. A phase that turns this animal into something else entirely. During this phase, everything changes. Hormones surge. Behavior shifts. An animal that once avoided conflict becomes unpredictable, aggressive, and capable of violence that feels completely out of place for something so calm just months before. During this phase, male elephants have been observed to demonstrate increased aggression, leading to incidents such as damage to property and confrontations with other wildlife, including predators. These behaviors are a natural, albeit intense, part of their cycle. And here's the unsettling part. You can't always tell, not from a distance, not if you don't know what to look for. The temporal gland secretion is visible if you're close enough. The behavior shifts gradually before it escalates. But by the time most people realize what they're dealing with, they're already too close. It highlights the importance of recognizing subtle cues. Observing behavioral changes can be challenging from a distance, but awareness is key in human-wildlife encounters. The guide sensed something wrong. He couldn't articulate it exactly, just something in the way the animal was standing, something slightly off about the angle of his ears. He started the engine. The elephant charged before the vehicle moved 10 meters. Not a mock charge, the kind where the animal stops short, stamps, flares its ears to scare you away. A real charge. Full speed. 6,000 kilograms moving at 25 kilometers per hour. They got away. Most people in that situation do get away. If there's a vehicle, if there's a trained guide, if there's distance. Most, not all. Female elephants are a different kind of dangerous. A female protecting a calf will give almost no warning. She doesn't posture. She doesn't telegraph. She calculates, as much as any animal can be said to calculate, whether you are a threat. And if the answer is yes, even if you didn't intend to be, she moves. Immediately. Decisively. The matriarch of a herd carries generational memory of threats. Research from unsettling has shown that elephants can distinguish between human ethnic groups based on smell and clothing alone. They respond differently to Maasai, who have historically had conflict with elephants over cattle, than to Kamba, who have not. They are not reacting to humans as a category. They are reacting to specific humans, specific patterns, specific histories that predate every living member of the herd. They remember. That's what makes them dangerous. Not their size, not their strength, their memory. They don't just see you, they recognize you. The scale of human-elephant conflict is now one of the most serious conservation problems in Africa. Not because elephants are evil, not because they're broken, but because two species, both intelligent, both territorial, both with long memories and complex social structures, are being compressed into the same shrinking space, and that compression has consequences. In countries like Mozambique, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, entire villages have modified their behavior around elephant activity. People walk in groups. They don't go out alone after dark. They build thorn barriers around their crops, and still wake up to find them flattened. Children in some communities grow up knowing the difference between an elephant's tracks and how recently it passed through, not as trivia, but as survival knowledge. Rangers who work in these regions talk about the psychological weight of it, the unpredictability, the intelligence, the fact that you can do everything right, read every signal correctly, keep the right distance, and still end up in the wrong place when a 6-ton animal decides the calculus has shifted. The irony is almost too heavy to carry. The elephant is one of the most studied, most loved, most protected animals in the world. Entire organizations exist to ensure their survival. Tourism economies are built around them. And yet, in the communities that actually live alongside them, in the villages at the edge of the parks, the word elephant carries a weight that no nature documentary has ever quite captured. This interaction evokes a complex respect for a powerful natural force, deeply integrated into the landscape. The elephant isn't cruel. It isn't hunting you. It doesn't wake up in the morning plotting anything. It's just enormous, intelligent, emotionally complex, and operating according to rules that were established long before humans started building fences across its migration routes. That's not a villain. That's something more unsettling than a villain. As the morning light finally fills the Amboseli plain, the herd moves on. The matriarch pauses once, turns her head toward the human presence at the edge of the road. Her ears shift. Her trunk rises slightly, reading the air. Whatever she concludes, she decides to keep walking. The herd follows. The ground trembles faintly as they pass, and then it doesn't. And the silence that follows isn't peaceful exactly. It's the kind of silence that makes you aware of how small you are, how recently you arrived on this continent, how long they've been here. You drive back through the dust, and you think about what you just saw, and you realize the closest word for what you felt wasn't wonder, it wasn't fear. It was something older than both of those things. Most people will never stand on that plane. Most people will only ever see elephants through glass, through a screen, through the safe distance of a camera lens. Somewhere in Africa tonight, someone is lying awake, listening to the ground, and the ground is answering, slowly, getting closer.